What's up, everybody? Rob here. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are continuing to grow on this channel, and I really appreciate it. I believe we're at like 1,420 or 1,418 subscribers. If you're a subscriber to this channel, if you click the red button down below and then you click the bell afterwards, you get notified of all future videos. If you're already subscribed, thank you very much. I appreciate you being part of this channel. This video is going to be all about Bitcoin. You knew it was coming. You knew it was coming. I'm not going to use this video to gloat. I'm not going to use this video to go, oh, I was talking about Bitcoin at 10,000, even though I just basically did. But I don't want to get into that. I don't want to be like, I told you so, blah, blah, blah. I want to talk about what's happening here because it's actually a lot more scary than it is about like rejoicing. Let's talk about the real facts. Let's talk about the real facts with Bitcoin in this video. If you do find some value from it, would appreciate it if you take out all the frustrations that we have in this crazy world today on that like button, because if you do agree with this content, hitting that like button will help this video with the YouTube algorithm and more people will see it because of you clicking that like button. So I'd really appreciate it if you do decide to smash that like button. Why did Bitcoin just jump to 23,000? What is going on right now? Basically, what that's saying is there's no ceiling. There's no ceiling. We've officially blasted through all-time highs. Not only like gone through it, but with major conviction. Will it hold this? I don't know. I don't know. But it looks pretty strong. It looks like it's holding pretty well over 23,000. At the time of me looking at it on this video, the other thing to talk about is the dollar index is down. Dollar index is well under 90. And I'm talking about this also in my other video, the end game. I really recommend watching that video as well. We're going to talk about some of the same points, but this video is going to be specifically about Bitcoin and why I'm so scared. That's the main thing to drive home in this video is I'm scared because of this. I hold a lot of Bitcoin and I'm stoked, obviously, but I'm scared because I know what this means. And that's what I want to get into in this video. Right now, Bitcoin is currently sitting at 23,000 and a little bit of change. Wow. Sitting at 23,000. I was expecting a bit more of a pullback down to like 21 or something, but still sitting at 23K. To understand why this is happening, we got to look back at the history books. Prior to 1971, the dollar was back to gold, which basically we were such a dominant superpower currency that the other currencies, the euro, the yen, all these different currencies, we're going, okay, well, the oil's back to gold. We'll be back to gold. We'll all be back to gold if we just trust the dollar. That's what happened prior to 1971. And that's why the dollar is still used today as the worldwide super currency. Nixon is often blamed, and this is something I talked about in the last video, but I believe this is very relevant to what's happening with Bitcoin. Nixon was blamed about dropping the US off the gold standard, which is what he did in 1971 and created fiat currency. But the pressure he was under was insane because what happened is we were cooking, people thought that we were cooking the books and they might have been right, where we were printing too much of our dollars and they basically were calling our bluff. This is back in 1971 where all the other currencies were like, actually, we want to exchange for gold. We want to exchange for gold. We don't really think that you have as much gold as you're saying you have. And Nixon was faced with a tough situation here. He's like sitting there. I like to use analogies in my videos. It's like he's sitting there with 7 deuce offsuit in poker, pretending like he has aces, and they're just like, okay, we're betting on it. We want the gold. And he's sitting there with 7 deuce off, dude, like, I don't really have the gold to give you, and if I did, I don't want to give you it. What do I do? What do I do, guys? We only have one choice here. We're all in. And the all-in move in that poker game for Nixon was saying, we're off the gold standard. We're not giving you any gold. Their dollar is no longer back to gold. If you want to use the dollar, so be it. But we are keeping the gold, and we are not backing the dollar to gold anymore. It was less, in my personal opinion, and I think the historians that I've talked to about this, it was less about taking it away from the U.S. citizens and more about knowing they didn't have enough gold to supply the world. And if they did, they didn't want to give it away. That was the situation. So that was the ultimate power grab of all time that created fiat currency and created the system that we're in. Why is this relevant to Bitcoin? Why is this relevant to Bitcoin jumping up over 23,000? Why tell that whole story? Well, that story is the beginning of the lack of trust for the dollar and what the U.S. is doing with their currency. This isn't all about the U.S., all the currencies of the world. The U.S. is just the cleanest shirt in the dirty hamper. All of the other currencies are fiat currencies. All of them. So when Bitcoin comes out, if you were to make a T-chart on what's the perfect situation, all the things that you don't want a currency to be, you don't want it to be able to do indefinite amount of secondaries, like the dollar is doing right now. You don't want it to be back to nothing. That's what the dollar is doing right now. You don't want it to, this goes back to the ability to, I call it like indefinite secondaries because it can just keep printing and printing and printing it. You want it to be able to be finite. You don't want it to be able to just have, there is no end. We don't even know how much is out. We just keep throwing more out there. Poof, pow, poof, poof, poof. Yellen coming in. Now she's going to poof, 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 more stuff in there. Just unlimited frenzies of money. And then the interest rate is zero. So the banks are just loaning out money like nobody's business. Wells Fargo's tanking on their stock. And then guess what? They're going to look back to us just like Bank of America did in 2007. That's the most, I bring that up in my videos because it's like the irony, the irony that we bailed out Bank of America with our taxpayer money for them diluting our currency that we are then paying for with our taxes because they were the ones that diluted our currency. While their executives dance away, ha ha ha, no problem for us. They're just going to bail us out. We bailed them out. We should have let Bank of America fail in 2007 and made them look like, when throwing the book at them. Hey, you shouldn't have given out bad loans. You shouldn't have taken advantage of people. You shouldn't have diluted the currency. This is your fault, Bank of America. You're going bankrupt. That's your fault, not the citizens' fault, your fault. But they didn't let that happen. They made the citizens pay for them. So why do I bring that up? Well, the perfect currency would be something that's finite, 21 million coins, can't have any more of them, has no central party, not backed to anybody, and it's peer-to-peer. And that goes back to there's no central party. It's peer-to-peer, person to person. What that basically does is all of the different countries and their respective currencies now have something, and the people have something where they can go, you know what? This is crazy. This internet currency thing, this is absolutely crazy, this Bitcoin thing. But you know what's crazier? Those Americans printing all that money. That's crazier. So we're going into Bitcoin. That is why I think this is happening. And that's what makes me so scared. Because the reason the stock market is up is because they printed all of this money. And everybody all of these Robinhood traders, and I'm sure you see them all over, rejoicing and making memes. Oh, Fed printer, go bird, making a joke out of this. I'm not willing to make I joke about it, but I hope you know that I'm being very serious here. I hope you know how much I understand what happens now because of this. We are losing because Bitcoin is going up like this. It is going to eat up, and I repeat, it's going to eat up the spot at number one. And if that happens, if it continues to eat up everything, it's leading a movement towards decentralizing wealth. That's what it's doing here. And why is that scary? Because your 401ks, your IRAs, all of this stuff is backed to this diluted dollar, while something else is like this needle. It's like this huge balloon of fiat currency over here has this crazy needle coming at it, and it's called Bitcoin. And that balloon over here holds the 401ks. It holds the IRAs. It holds all the money that's locked up over there that you can't take it out while this needle is coming at it. What happens because of that? We're going to find out if it continues to go up here. And I mean, 23,000 has nothing. If it gets adopted, if it actually continues on this path, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars it could go to. Go to $1 million a Bitcoin. If you really look at the math there, if it really gets adopted as a currency and it starts to eat away at the dollar, I mean, the upside is like unlimited. But what it's doing is it's finally the other countries going, we used to not be able to really criticize the US because they're the dominant superpower. Like, we can't really criticize you. But what we can do now is say we're going into Bitcoin and we don't really want to use your dollars anymore because you diluted them. That's what they can do. Is it crazy? Is this internet fugazi money crazy? Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. This money in the internet that is only 21 million of them can be mined, and these computers are bumping out these coins via algorithm, and they're running out of electrical. It takes so much electrical cost to shoot out one of these coins, and they're running out of coins to even mine now because they're almost at 21 million coins mined. Yeah, it's crazy. It's also the first one of these to hit the market, and it's the first one of them to be widely respected by more and more hedge funds and more huge companies. Cash App, PayPal, it started this huge avalanche, and the snowball effect is going downhill on this avalanche, and the snowball is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and more big hedge funds are jumping in all in on Bitcoin lately, which is insane to see. And what do I think is fueling it? Lack of trust. Why do I know this? Because the day Bitcoin jumps to 23 and change, almost 24 at one point, it was just going through the roof. The dollar index finally fell under 90. And that was a huge resistance level. It hasn't been this low since over 5 years, since we were recovering from the first crash in 2007. That whole recovery was the last time for that, from 2007 till, what was it, like 2015 or something, was when we were recovering the dollar because of that crash. That signified a very serious situation to me. That was a very big tell to see that detachment. And I talk about this in my endgame video as well. To see that happen was the tell for me to go, okay, wait a minute. The dollar's going down, being diluted, and Bitcoin's going up. I repeat this movement. If that happens, the world gets flipped upside down by Bitcoin. Bitcoin literally can flip the world upside down. Is it crazy? Absolutely. Absolutely crazy. I'm watching it very close. Is it a moment where I'm like, personally, am I going like, I'm all in? Like, no. I haven't sold my position. I'll say that much. I could sell half my position, take a huge profit, and then ride the other half on the house at this point with my Bitcoin position. And I'm still just holding it as a play, because I think it's worth myself talking about my money. My videos are for education, entertainment purposes only. Viewer discretion advised. Disclaimer. What I'm doing with my money is I still see, regardless that the Bitcoin position of mine went from like 5% to being like 20% of my decentralized portfolio, I'm still holding it because I just see what's happening here. It's leading a movement of decentralized assets. It's leading this movement. And if this continues to happen, gold follows, silver follows, platinum follows, and we might see a day where it's back to a different currency than dollars, where we're trading in different types of, and it's crazy to even say that, but we might see a day where currencies, where we value our assets rather to something like Bitcoin instead of valuing it to our respective currencies, where the options are growing. There might still be, there obviously will still be dollars, might even turn into a digital dollar. But what if people start trusting Bitcoin more? And that includes the whole world going, actually, yeah, I'll buy your gold from you. I'll sell you gold, but I want Bitcoin. It could turn into that. And it already is turning into that. I'm seeing the trading happen all the time. So I hope that helps like kind of wrap your mind around why I think this movement is happening here. I don't think it's just people going, Bitcoin to the moon, hodl. It's not just that. It's that people and the other countries and the other currencies and all these hedge fund managers and everything, the tidal wave has started. Or I say tidal wave, I mean avalanche is probably the better way, and the snowball effect of this thing growing bigger and bigger and bigger. I hope you understand what I mean by that. It started. And now everybody doesn't want to miss out on it, and the FOMO is in full effect. So could it pull back? Absolutely. But seeing that it's going up when the dollar is going down is a very big tell for me. That's something I'm looking at. It's what I'm going to continue to look at. It's a major bullish sign. And the fact that Bitcoin now has no ceiling, they used to talk about this big drop. You know, they used to always give us, you know, some flack about, okay, well, you know, Bitcoin fell from 20,000 down to 3,000. I mean, what happened there? You know, your Fugazi money. Well, what now? What now? All-time highs with no ceiling. And it didn't just break through. It broke through with conviction. It didn't just dance over 20,000 and go 20,521. No, it just blasted over 23,000. That's intense. That's the video. That's all the points I wanted to talk about with Bitcoin and why I think this movement has happened here in Bitcoin. I've taken a little bit of time to think about it. This happened, I mean, earlier, like 12 hours ago or something like that, or maybe even a day ago with Bitcoin. I've taken some time to think about it, and that's this chart that I'm looking at, and I hope it helps you to look at, is the dollar index in comparison to what's happening with Bitcoin, what's happening with gold, what's happening with silver. Keep your eyes on that dollar index, because that is not just something, everyone always thinks US. The dollar index is something that is our gauge and something that the other countries are using as a gauge in a way to say, hey, we don't really value your dollars as much as this anymore. We think your dollars are diluted. It's the other countries and their respective currencies putting the dollar in check. That's what I look at what I think when I'm looking at the dollar index. And if it continues to drop like this, which I imagine it continues to drop because they're just printing and printing more money, who knows what'll happen? Who knows what'll happen? All we can do is make an educated thesis and act accordingly. If you haven't watched my endgame video, I might drop that video after this one. I might drop this one first because Bitcoin, this just happened with Bitcoin. But the other video I dropped was the endgame video on what I think happens with the stock market in retrospect or in comparison to Bitcoin, precious metals, and all the decentralized assets. That video will probably come out after this one now I think about it. I'll probably want to drop this one first. So if you are subscribed to the channel, you click that red subscribe down below and you click the bell afterwards, you'll be notified of all future videos and you'll get notified of that video coming out. If you don't want to subscribe, I didn't really subscribe to a lot of channels when I first started. Now I start to subscribe because I know how much it helps the content producer by doing that and clicking the like button and all that. It really does help a lot. I used to be the guy that didn't click subscribe, so I understand where you're at. If you don't want to subscribe, you just search Rob Sultan. You'll be able to find me that way. But I'd really appreciate it if you click subscribe. It costs a whole $0.00. So I understand how much of a cost that might be. I'm just kidding around. But if you watched all the way through, if you're listening to me ramble right now, thank you so much for watching the video until the end. I really appreciate you. See you at the next video. Signing out.